Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How you doing? A big mahalo. Thank you for joining us. I'm in Sydney. It's another great Sydney interview, sort of on my tour of Sydney that I'm doing. And I'm following up with the Ringo Starr All-Star Band musical director, who you probably remember the finale of our 4-part series as we discussed Ringo Starr All-Star Band in the Asia Pacific. It's Mark Rivera, also from Billy Joel's band and a lot of other celebrated recordings. Aloha and mahalo, my brother.
Aloha, mahalo to you, David. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for doing this. And how are you? You're on tour. It's got to be an exciting time for you.
It's a trip. Ringo it's like first class all the way. The hardest part is just, figuring out what to do with the part of the day that you're not playing and not get in trouble.
I'm glad you're taking time for me. It means a lot to us. We traveled a long way, and we're looking forward to the show tonight, and it's just a really nice thing. You're a man of your word, so thank you for doing it.
You're very kind. That's all you have is your word. You know that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you're good like that. Mark's had a really unbelievable life. He got his start, I believe it was his first pro gig. I know John Lennon was in the very beginning. Was that your first real gig?
Oh, no, the first real gig I had was a guy named Dean Friedman out of New Jersey. He had a song called Ariel that preceded that. And a little while later, I ended up getting hooked up with Vinny Appice and the band Bomf and John. But I was already, we were trying to put our own record out. That's how that happened. And John happened to be recording. I think we did the Walls and Bridges prior to that, and the rock and roll album around that same time.
And so take us to it. You're getting a chance to work in, I guess it's the Record Plant. Is that where it was?
Record Plant on 44th Street, yeah.
And you're there, and how is it that you get to end up crossing paths with a guy who all these years later, now you're really an integral part of his drummer's band?
Well, as it turned out, I had replaced a saxophone player that was in the band. It was called Community Apple originally, and I take that back. It was called Dog Soldier. It was a line that John had come up with, Dog Soldier. And then it was Community Apple, and then we just kept changing it. My dear friend, or a friend that I'd grown up with in rival bands, I should say, Jimmy Iovine, who's gone on to now be the
producer extraordinaire.
Well, producer extraordinaire. He owns Interscope. He's the man. He and I grew up in Brooklyn. Well, at least he grew up. I'm still growing, but and we were in rival bands. He started out as an assistant at the Record Plant, and then he's got a great mannerism about him. He's very personable, and he ended up producing one of John's things. John loved him, and he insisted that he just use Jimmy exclusively. And then, sure enough, he went from there. He did Born to Run. He did all the Springsteen stuff, and I mean his track record's just gone off. But I happened to be there, and Jimmy put in a good word, and he wanted a horn section, and he wanted a band to back him. We did a lot of lip syncing on that, but we recorded some stuff with John for Gary U.S. Bonds. But we did the tribute to Sir Lou Grade, and we did a thing when he was not allowed to leave the States because of his status, as I'll say. And it was around Christmas time, so he did an interview, and he sang "Stand By Me," and he sang to Julian at the time. That's how far back that goes.
Is that one of your standout memories? What are some of the things that when you think back to, because it's really not a lot of people who have a legacy like you have, and I know you really appreciate it, which is what makes talking to you special. When you think of, how gifted, how fortunate you are to have spent time with John, or is there a story, a moment, an experience with John Lennon that really resonates as something you're privileged to have gotten to do?
No, just who he was and how he handled himself, and how because you meet people with a lot less status or a lot less star power that really buy into their hype. He was just he just made you feel like you were one of his guys. We backed him. We did some sessions, and I guess I'd have to believe it's the same with all four of them, because it's so evident with Ringo that I think that they understood that they were very fortunate to have met each other, and that inclusion that they had. You would think you grew up with the guy, and that's the main thing that stuck out with John was how witty he was and how engaging he was. Particular situations, I mean, they just went by. I can't think of a particular thing he said, but every moment you had with him, you just kept pinching yourself, saying, "I'm with John."
You said something great, and I never really thought about this before. When you were around John, it was post Beatles by several years. Was he was grateful for the experience of that? I mean, was there ever moments where you sort of learned from him, like how the gratitude he had for having been part of the Fab Four?
Oh, his whole life. I mean, it's such a. It's hard to describe. I mean, you think about people who changed the entire landscape of our culture. So you can't. And it's not like you don't take one fell swoop and hit it all. Because all the positives are there, but at the same time, I mean, these guys were. I mean, people were burning their records. They because they were controversial, and it's so. I mean, Ringo tells us stories. He told us some stuff just last night. Or the night before last in Brisbane, and you think to yourself, these people had it, because all we see is like, he's a Beatle, must have been the greatest thing in the world. And he's telling me about how they'd always have to share a room in the hotels because they'd be together, so they'd have company. And I remember Ringo saying one time he didn't have age 20. He was about 20 or 21 when they started. I got to get the. He's born, so he's about 23 in '63, and he didn't have from age 20 to almost 30, because all those years were like, he shuffled here, shuffled there, and you don't think of that. But your gratitude is there. I mean, they're all grateful for the notoriety. But I mean, part of them, you get the feeling to say like, it'd be nice to be like, when he walked around in Hard Day's Night and he was that boy, or this boy was playing rather, and he's got the coat on, the hat, and he's like a nobody. That's really that was a great piece of his acting, but it was a lot of who he was. Like, and just I'm allowed to walk. I think they're in the Thames where just like I'm left alone, and nobody. In fact, people like I think the two kids were there, and that's a very wild thing to think about, that they didn't have a part of their lives that you and I take for granted. I mean, I was 7 when I was 7, I was 12 when I was 12, I was 30 when I was 30. He was like beyond any of that. So it's a lot
of responsibility comes with that, a lot of sacrifice. Yeah, you're right. There's two sides to it, and people often don't see that it's not all glamour, and that there's different ways you get taxed, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Souvenirs from that era, finally, as we wrap that portion of your life up. Is there anything that you have up in like a mantle or something that would be interesting to hear about?
The jumpsuits that they made us. We went out, and there was a stylist that bought us these jumpsuits. The blacks, like a shiny black thing with these zippers. I don't know if you ever saw the picture, but I have a picture.
Vinny told me about it.
Oh, it's trippy. That, and the only thing I really wish that I had was a mask they put on the back of our heads, because we went and a woman took a mold of our face and put it on the back of our head, and we had skull caps, and that was to show the duality of the American society that Yoko was pointing out. I don't have that mask, but I still have the jumpsuit, and it almost kind of fits if I do enough swimming.
That's great. And Vinny is Vinny Appice. You were talking about Carmine Appice's brother and a good friend of Mark growing up, and obviously went on to be in Black Sabbath, and he's a really swell guy. I've interviewed him many times. You still tight with Vinny?
I speak to him on occasion. I haven't spoken to him in quite some time, but Carmine will email me once in a while if we go to California. He said, "Dude, give me the game. I want to play in Ringo's band." He wants to be in Ringo's band. We grew up like about 5 blocks away from each other. I grew up between 8th and 9th Avenue. I think they were on 14th Avenue, on 41st Street, the same street. Amazing. And between us was Jimmy Destry from Blondie. He was like what would have been about 10th or 11th Avenue. So it's like 14th, 10th, and 9th. And it's
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, like the Kevin Bacon of rock and roll.
So how'd you get the gig that I guess in so many ways got you into Ringo was the Billy gig? Or maybe not.
Well, the gig. I mean, it all started. In reality, it started with Clive Davis. Clive Davis. I was in a band called Tycoon. We had a moderate hit, and we were at the record plant. In fact, that all dovetails.
What a catalyst that plant.
No, I'm telling you, man, it was. Because we were there, and Jack Douglas was kind of the executive producer, and this guy Rod O'Brien, great engineer and producer in his own right. There was a band in the back. I practically lived at the record plant because I was hustling. I lived in Brooklyn. I didn't have a car, so I was living in what was called a bomb room, and there was a band there called Cash. That was the name of the band originally, but they had to change because another band was called Cash. And Jack was the producer of the demo, Jack and Rod, and we were being shopped around by our lawyer, and it was down to Atlantic Records and Arista. And Arista said they would give us the biggest chunk of change and would guarantee us this and that. And we're like, great, this sounds fantastic. And there was one prerequisite in Clive's eyes. We wanted Jack Douglas. We were adamant we're going to use Jack. And he said, well, there's this new talent that I want you to record with. And we said, who's that? He said, Mutt Lange. I said, who? What? What Lang? So, and as it turns out, he insisted upon it, and it would have been a deal breaker, and we wanted to go with Arista. Long story short, we do the record in London in about, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks, and Mutt and I became pretty tight. He'd come in, sing, work all the background vocals and stuff, and the record was doomed for failure because we fired the drummer before we even finished before we got back to the States. They fired the drummer. The manager was gone. Everything went to crap is what had happened. It was like a typical, we got everything we got. I got it, I ain't got it kind of thing. So the band flaked out. I ended up touring with other bands just to make rent and whatever. And a few years later, I'm playing at the club called Tracks in the city with some very dear friends, and I had a 6th floor walk up. I walk up with my tenor, my Barry. Phone rings, and Mutt says, "Hello, Marcus. How are you? It's Mutt." I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Actually, I'm in the studio, and I'd like you to come down." I'm like, "Oh, Mutt, I just walked up the stairs." I was kind of saying, "Could we do this another time?" And he says, "I'm recording with Foreign," and as I remembered, before the phone hit the receiver got down, I was down the flight of stairs in a cab or a train to get down there, and we did it at Electric Ladyland, and we recorded for about 8 hours because we tried this, tried that, tried this, tried everything in the world, tried double tracking that. Just as only all those bits those are between. Junior played the solo, but I played the bits in between, and we were doing this for like about 6 or 8 hours, and finally, as the night was coming to a close, Mutt says, "How about this?" And he presses the play button. And it was the first thing I played when I walked in the room. And Mick said, "That's great." And Mutt said, "That's the first thing he played." So that was on the record. So that led to my working with Foreigner. They found that I played keyboards and sang and played guitar. I won't say, it's not fair to say I replaced Ian McDonald, but I was the guy who
followed in.
I followed, exactly. And then from that, they knew I could do a bunch of things. And Billy found that because Billy and Richie would parting ways. And Billy was looking for somebody who could sing and do a couple of things, play some percussion, some keyboards, and I fit the bill.
So the Foreigner 4, that was Foreigner 4, that was the record, and Mick Jones is who you're referring to. I've interviewed Mick a few times.
Yeah, Mick and Lou. In fact, as it turns out, the first session was just myself playing saxophone, and then Mutt told them, by the way, Mark sings, you could sing really well, blah, blah, blah. They invited me down like the next couple of days, and we did all the vocals on Jukebox Hero, Waiting for a Girl Like You, all the backing vocals with myself. I mean, the bulk of it with myself, Mutt, Lou Gramm, and Ian Lloyd from the band Stories. Remember Brother Louie? Louie. They had the four of us sang all those big high voices. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. I when I was a little boy, that was one of my first big bands was Foreigner. I used to their first record, that Star Rider tune, I think it was. I used to love that.
Yeah. It was.
I used to love that jam. Well, good stuff for sure. So you end up, you get the gig. Now, Billy, what was it like? I mean, you come into the gig at what point? Have you ever had like your gig become? Are you the music director there? Is that? I mean, because you have a role when you watch you on stage, man. You're so pivotal in his band. It seems like you're really instrumental.
Well, I appreciate that. I love what I do. I really do love what I do, and a lot of people. If you're enjoying what you do, it's like a magnet. People are drawn to that, and that's. I don't think about it because I don't think about anything. If you want to know the truth, when I'm doing what I'm doing, it's like you're in it exactly. There's this like emotional moat around you, and nothing gets in. But It was 1982. The the Nylon Curtain had come out, and we were touring on that. It was for Billy Joel. It was a flop. It only sold like maybe 1.2, maybe 1.5 million records, which is like, oh, it's terrible. Oh man, so we got on well. I mean, I knew that at the time the musical director was Doug Stegmeyer, who's passed. He was the bass player, and he and I done some gigs together. And I knew David Brown, the guitar player at the time. And, they kind of told Billy, hey, this guy could do it. He was out with Foreigner, because Billy wanted to have somebody that wouldn't be nervous about playing arenas. And they said, oh, he just got finished playing with Foreigner. They did RFK Stadium, 80,000 people. He goes, oh, tell him to learn these 3 songs. I learned, I think, Only the Good Die Young. I can't remember the second song. The third song was Just the Way You Are. And the first song we got to play was Just the Way You Are.
This is your audition tunes, basically.
Audition for Billy, yeah, I'm sorry. And so I played the solo, and solo stops, and he stops the band, and I go, oh crap, man! I thought, was it that bad? He comes up to me, gives me a hug and a kiss. He said, as long as you want a job in my band, you've got it. And he's been true to his word.
In those early years, I've been privileged to see you guys together a few times. Plus, I saw the Rock Hall 25 shows, which was a real insane moment, and you're just up there wailing with the Springsteen and Billy and stuff. But one of the great videos, there's many. You go on YouTube, you can explore Mark's past with Billy just as much as you can explore him with Ringo and other projects. But one great one is, I think it's Nassau Coliseum. It's about 82, 83, and I forget the Billy jam, but you're just wailing the solo, and you lean back. You're on the piano. It's just such.
Was I wearing a pink hat? Maybe.
I don't remember your wardrobe, but boy,
Live from Long Island is a video, and it was just I was just fresh in the band. I loved every second of it. I still do. I mean, I love Billy's music, and it's you get an opportunity to shine. I mean, there's so many great sax solos. Richie it was great feature all the way through, and I was digging it.
You're a ham, man, and you're a showman, and that's what people, when you go to a concert, it just is a lot of energy there.
Liberty and I used to call each other Baked in Virginia. We were 2 hams.
Well, there you go.
It's what you're supposed to enjoy it, because I always say, without sounding crude, we're not curing cancer up there. We're doing something that it's supposed to be enjoyable.
Right. It's got to be fun, and it's nice that it's not exactly like the album would be, and it's also, there's some interplay between the two of you. Like I was saying, I saw when I was fortunate when you played at the in Honolulu. They actually played at the Blaze Show. Many people may remember 2005, I think it was, and you had that feel on stage. It's just like, it's almost like he leans on. It feels, at least from the outside, he leans on you as an additional, star performer on stage.
Well, honestly, he's that way. He and Ringo, I'd say Ringo more than anybody I've ever worked with. It's like you get on a horse and you let it run. You don't get on and say, "Oh, we're going to just trot today." You want to get the most out of him. And when I joined the band with Billy, he really loved my energy, and the same with Ringo. It's like he wants everybody to perform full out. It's why you hire somebody.
When it comes to Ringo as the music director, talk a little bit about how that job works.
Pretty straight ahead. I mean, I grew up. The first time we played was Mark Farner, Randy Bachman, Felix Cavalieri, Billy Preston, Entwistle, just all these great musicians. And I grew up playing when I was like about 14. I played all these gigs in Brooklyn. I knew all the songs. And any time we had done any band or any incarnation of Ringo's All Stars, I knew all the material. I always knew the band. I knew the harmonies. I knew the chord changes. And it's easy for me because it's like this. It's in my DNA.
Do you have to write up charts for everybody? What goes on each tour?
What I try to do is, I'll put together, Ringo and I talk about the songs. He said, if you have a hit, you could do it. He says, I want to know what you play for your mom or your dad, what they like. He wants to know what the radio likes. And this time it's 3 songs apiece. And I picked the biggest hits.
You pick them from each artist.
He and I go over it. I mean, he wants the hits, and I say these 3 would be the best. And of course, you have to go through the individual artists, and they want to be sure that they're going to play what they want to play to some extent. And the management, if you have a manager, it's the best of everybody's situation, so that the set itself is the best it can be, and then I'll try to put a song list together. And what I do is I put the song order together, send that a CD, and tell everybody, learn that poem.
Oh, that's great. So you'll get all the hits, and you'll sort of make your own mixtape, if you will, in the set list of what will be the show. Get it to everybody, and so everyone's learning from the originals, and you make like a little personalized, like a limited edition release.
It's a playlist. We do a playlist, and then they send it out, and they have to learn the songs.
That's cool. It's just an unusual band, yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of concerts. You never seen anything like that. And you try to describe to folks, what's it going to be like, when you go to see a Ringo Starr show? It's like a jukebox playing all these songs. You know who's on stage, but you don't know what's going to come next unless you know Mark and you got the set list. But it's like, and all the jams, like you said. And Ringo's he qualifies it by saying, "I want these hits." There's a real purpose for that in terms of being a fan, or maybe the better word is there's a real reward in terms of being a fan, because the sense of familiarity as the concert goes, it's really a treat, because while you don't know what's coming, you know the material.
Well, it's like seeing 5 acts as opposed to, because you go to see, a lot of times like corporations would hire different bands, and it's great for like 3 or 4 of the songs, and all of a sudden they're playing songs from my new record, and it's like, oh, where did the night go?
Bathroom break.
Yeah, exactly. And so you just what you have is nothing but hits. It's like there's no question to where the beef is. The beef is on stage every song, and I mean, people are dancing in the aisles. There was a girl 2 nights ago, maybe 12, 13 years old, dancing to Roxanne. I'm like, this is so cool. There's 70-year-olds, or 17 to 15, 12-year-olds dancing to the music, and I'm sure this is because. As I said in my blog, I said a great song is a great song forever, and it transcends from one generation to the next. What I play, my sons kind of dig, not because I force it down their throats, because it's great music. And it really comes down to great songs.
One of the things transcending sort of a similar kind of vibe is the way that you've been able to bring some of these stars that you've worked with into your own project. And we talked a little bit about, how you got Billy on board and playing the Hammond B3 on Spanish Castle Magic. And you also have Ringo on your own solo project. And talk a little bit about getting to have him involved in it. Again, common bond is what we're talking about.
Honestly, it's like the greatest thrill. I've never asked favors. I've always tried to be like the infantry guy out doing what's expected of me, right? And when I worked with Billy, I did something with Billy, unfortunately, for a friend who passed away, and we were at a memorial, and I convinced him to play Miami 2017 because it was one of the favorite songs of this gentleman, Don DeVito. And after the show was over, Billy gave me a hug. He goes, "Man, thanks for kind of forcing my hand to do the right thing." I said, "Man, it was the right thing, and I'm glad you did it." And he said, "If there's everything I could do, may I?" And I said, "By the way," and because I'd had Spanish Castle Magic, because I'm a huge Hendrix fan, and so I said, "Billy, would you dig playing?" Because everybody, if you're going to ask Billy a favor, they say, "Would you play piano or sing?" I said, "Would you play Hammond B3 on Spanish Castle Magic?" And he immediately went, "Yeah, like Lee Michaels," and he's going on. I said, "Yeah." We put the studio time in, and within about a half an hour, it was done. He just killed it. And then my producer, Jimmy Braylow, kind of got me to get my nerve up. He said, "Well, why don't you ask Ringo? There's a great song that we'd already had. It was called Frontline. Now it's called Money, Money, Money." He said, "Get Ringo to do his that Beatle Boogaloo kind of thing, because nobody has that feel like Ringo." And he played the song. And once the song came back and we started to hear it again, it's like, well, now I got to rewrite the song, because the song, what he did was a gift. So now we got to
serve his part.
We have to have to serve what he did, and we did that. And I think the track sounds great. And then Nils Lofgren's played on it, and Steve Lukather played on a song called Rise. It was just this piano vocal thing, and it's really kind of out of time. And he played some amazing stuff. Luke he's another one who gave us a gift, and I'm incredibly grateful. The record, did I say record? The CD is like kind of a journey with different people that I've worked with, and it's the genres of music are like Traffic, Hendrix. People say it sounds like Sly meets Hendrix meets I don't know. Somebody said Lenny Kravitz or this, but it's rock and roll. There's a song that sounds like the Stones. A song sounds like, it's just, to me, it's a collection of great rock and roll. And I wrote 7 of the songs, co-wrote 7 of the songs. A woman, Karen Mano, wrote one, this song Rise. And there are 2 covers, Spanish Castle and Tell Me by Fleetwood Mac. It's pretty rock and roll. And every time somebody hears it, they say, "Oh, that's great. Who's singing?" It's like, "It's me." No, who's singing the lead? It's me. And it's because people think I sing background, I play, but it's pretty amazing. I think it's a great feature. Yeah, originally I wanted to call it Common Thread, because like a thread in a tapestry, which I thought was pretty much what I'm about. And then my son was an architecture major at Virginia Tech, and he said, "Dad, it should be a common bond." And I said, "Oh, common bond, like people get." He goes, "Well, actually, common bond is how people laid brick in homes originally. It's like off center, let's say, like, so you have, and it's more the structure of it withstands. It's a building term, common bond." Right. Bond to me being a bond, but it's a double entendre. So
yeah, it's a versatile use of the term.
Absolutely, my son makes me look smart. So
hey, you got to take it wherever you can.
Anywhere I can get it, absolutely.
I can imagine. Real quick, because we didn't mention it, but when you talk about Billy doing the Hammond B3 and lending that to your record on a Jimmy tune, and what could be wrong with covering Hendrix in any time plays?
What could be wrong with covering Hendrix if you do a crappy job?
That's true. But the thing that's cool about that, for Billy fans at least, and this is just one reference, I'm sure there's lots more. I'm not a Billy expert by any means, so people don't throw anything at me, but Only the Good Die Young, one of my favorite jams, and it has that nice organ. I'm assuming that was him back in the day, or was that not?
The organ...
Just a nice sound on that thing.
The tone. I'm pretty sure he played it. Richie might have played some organ as well. I don't know, because I wasn't around at that point. But
it's associated with him, I guess.
I mean, the crazy thing is that he was in a band called the Hassles, and they were like a 4-piece band, kind of like the Rascals, let's say. And it was that he played Hammond B3, and he's a killer Hammond B3 player. He's one of those guys. He's playing with this hand. He's moving drawbars, and it's just like an animal that you either you know it or you don't, and he knows it.
You own one of those and a Leslie?
Oh, Hammond B3s are like $20,000 now.
He's a big rock star.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. You can see it, because like I face out on the
Opera House.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. I get my kids through college, and I do what I do.
And has Billy contributed otherwise to this upcoming record, or is that his?
That's his contribution right now. I mean, he's also mentioned that he loved the track "Turn Me Loose," and when the record gets out, I'm hoping to get another tip of the hat on his participation through his website. But he's been really supportive. He's happy for me. He said the same as everyone else. He calls me the razor because my voice cuts, and he goes, "Man, you're doing it, man. You're really doing it." So any contribution on his part or Ringo's part or anybody's part that's done anything is their enthusiasm for what I'm doing and their joy in the participation, which is overwhelming.
His enthusiasm for what you're doing. When you first told him you had the Ringo gig, was he super proud of you? I mean, I would just be like, dude, I'd be like high-fiving you.
Absolutely. Billy is one of the ultimate Beatle fans. I mean, if you listen to his music, he's so influenced by John and Paul, as we all are. I mean, there are songs and just tones of his voice. He goes right to John. At times he goes right to Paul. He's thrilled for me. And I mean, everybody in the band, like, as much as we love playing together, and I love playing with Billy's band, but every time I mention I'm getting ready to go out with Ringo, they're all like, dude, oh man, what a killer. And everybody's like, well, if he needs a keyboard player, if he needs a guitar player, if he needs and everybody wants to be in the band. I mean, I don't think I've run across a friend in the past it was like 17, 18 years I'm doing it with Ringo. I've never spoken about my participation with Ringo and haven't been asked, you think he needs maybe he needs like a fourth guitar player, or second baseman. It's not like an infield baseball team. You only need one bass player. You don't need 3 bases covered. So
I can imagine people lean on you. I mean, it's a special gig.
I would.
I mean, you can't blame people, because it's a testament to who Ringo is too, really, and the impact, as you were saying before. You just can't even. It's very hard to to properly, I don't know that you can sum up what the Beatles, what they did. I mean, this is such a massive contribution to music.
It's because Todd and I, we were in the dressing room 2 nights ago, and Todd mentioned that he had done he went into, a friend of his has a class called Beatlology or something like. No, seriously, it's a study on the impact the Beatles have had over the course of time since they're around, and it's going on 50 years. And what Todd had mentioned was it impacted everything from first and foremost the musical scene, the style, hairstyle, clothing, the culture, I mean, through the drug culture, every culture, but the way that love songs were perceived, the way people were able to open their hearts and be hurt by love. I mean, these guys changed everything, because up until then, love songs were like, hey, I got my arm around my girl and I'm cruising down. And it's like,
it was a lot less innocent. Plus, they had the long jams, the psychedelic jams, the movies, the videos. It's staggering. The
thing that was crazy is that they just took what they had and they kept going with it. They evolved. They kept evolving, and their impact will be. I mean, I'm hoping that that it continues. That there are going to be people dissecting their vocal harmonies or their structures of just their melodies. Like, I won't say like the way we look at Mozart or things, but quite frankly, as songwriters go, they're the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest ever. I mean, they're like the Rodgers and Hart or of our time. And to me, because it's so worldwide, it's mind-boggling how much they've affected. It's like certain people threw a pebble in a lake.
The Rebels.
Well, what they did was they created a tsunami. It was like no doubt about it. It's like they threw a Mack truck into this ocean. It just kept going and going. So, and we're very blessed because it's going around, and I'm particularly blessed because I get to share a stage with them every night.
The guy's sitting up here. We're like on the 10th floor. We're staring out the window at the Sydney Opera House. We've got the Harbor Bridge here. Hey, you're not kidding. I mean, he takes you all over, and I can see why he would want you in the band. You do bring a ton to the table. You've got a lot of chops. You're a really solid guy. You're easy to talk with. You're reliable. You're a stand-up guy. You say you're going to do something, you do it. And that's the kind of person you want around you in a variety of situations, really, not just in a rock band. As a final note, just promise us that when Common Bond comes out, that you'll do a phoner or something, allow us to explore the record, the final product, record, album. It's always going to be an album, because we can't really call it a CD, because that's almost gone too.
Collection of my MP3s, as Jimmy calls it.
Exactly. Sad, scary, man. But when the project, that will probably last.
Fruition.
That's a word we can keep using. Yeah, when it comes to fruition, maybe you'll do a thing with us. Let us talk.
I would love to. Thank you for the opportunity, Dave. Thank you much.
And did you have fun today? Did we explore some interesting things? Just keep your mind going a little bit.
Absolutely. What it comes down to is like, people say like, thank you for the interview. And I keep thinking to myself, well, thank you for reminding me how blessed I am. You ask me questions, and it's like, you wake up a lot of times and you you have a good day, bad day, whatever it might be. But man, I wake up, I'm one of the luckiest people in the world on a multitude of levels. But most of all, just because I get to do what I love with people I love, and you definitely help remind me of that, Dave. Thank you much. Mahalo.
Mahalo to you, man. The great Mark Rivera from Billy Joel's band. You'll be catching his Common Bond record. Look for him as part of Ringo Starr's all-star band, and here on HBR2. Big aloha to you, my brother.
Aloha to you. Mahalo.